Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, 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 welcome. Happy New Year. I know it's already 26 days into the year and I'm already talking about Happy New Year, right? So if you're watching me, I want to say welcome to the Empowerment Moment. I am Dr. G, aka Nicholas's mom. So depending on what mood I'm kind of in, you'll get the different hat that I'm wearing. So today I'm choosing to wear my Nicholas mommy hat. So I've been blessed to have three wonderful children. The oldest, I share, her birthday is coming up very soon. And the youngest one, her birthday is also coming up very soon in February. She's a Valentine baby. So 18 years ago, I was almost, 18 years ago by now, I was in the process of a journey. And maybe I'll share a little bit here. So welcome to Empowerment Moment. I'm Dr. G. And I'm super happy to see you join me tonight. So I'll share a little bit about my 18-year ago journey. So by trade, originally my training is a pharmacist. I trained as a pharmacist and, so I have a doctor of pharmacy degree. And so now I work as a pharmacy manager in my other hat. But beyond the pharmacy manager hat, my passion and my love is oncology and pain management. So oncology is cancer care. Hey, Pat, thanks for joining. Or I think she was joining and she must have dropped off. Hi, Senna, welcome. I was just getting ready to tell your story, so you can kill me later.
Oh boy.
Of course, right? No, actually, I was going to tell Delali's story. So so this is what happens when you have mom that has a microphone in her mouth, right? So anyway, I was starting to say that I work with cancer patients. Well, that's my training. I've been doing that for a good 24 or so years. And so part of the work has been a journey and a half. And in the process, about 18 years ago, I was suspecting my baby, Delali. Delali means there's a savior. If you ever knew why my kids have these names. And then Sena means God's gift. So see, Sena, I'm putting your name out there. It's God's gift in our native language. And so I was at the time when I was pregnant with Delali, I ended up coming home on bed rest. And on bed rest gave me an opportunity to really do some research about autism and what's the behind it and some of the challenges. And one of the key things, and I don't know why I'm fully sharing this story, but I think I'm going somewhere with it. And what I want to say here is that sometimes when some things happen to you in life, and at the time when I was suspecting Delali, I had XX fluid, and what they call polyhydramnios. And I was pretty devastated that I had to come home and be on bed rest. Thankfully, the bed rest was sitting on my couch. But that gave me a great opportunity to really dive in and do research. And I came to find out that individuals with intellectual disabilities, including autism, some of them may have underlying health issues. And for our son, Nicholas, the underneath health issue was really sensitivity to wheat-containing food and gluten, which is gluten, and casein, which is milk-containing products. And whenever he would be exposed to by the food, it would give him severe heartburn, like esophagitis. I'm telling his story. And what I came to find out was what I thought was just him tantruming was really pain that was being expressed. And so I was able to learn more that was really what was the issue. But I would have never been able to really figure that out had I not, had I not had that time at bed rest to do that research. So I start off this empowerment moment tonight to just say this, that if you're listening to me and you're watching me and maybe you just got some really bad news, and that means you have to pause or you have to sit, there is a purpose behind it. So anyway, so this is back in January, late January. I was in bed rest 18 years ago. And my husband wanted to make me feel better on Valentine's Day. So he said, okay, let's go to the movies. So we were on our way to the movie theater when my doctor's office called me. I called my doctor's office because I wasn't 100%. Hey, good evening, Pat. Pat, welcome. I called my husband, and they said, come in. And then they went, observed, and they're like, you got to go straight to the hospital. So to make a long story short, 18 years later, I'm telling my baby story. So she will kill me for telling her story out there, but she took my Valentine story. So now Valentine's Day has a significant meaning for us. So we have a Valentine baby. And then the other story I want to share about Valentine's, like my very best friend from high school, college, who's my Senna's godmother, got a liver transplant on Valentine's Day. So Belinda, I can shout out to you. 10 years ago is when she got her liver transplant. So, and we celebrate a milestone birthday this year. So we're celebrating 10 years of liver transplant. And, so it just tells you that there's always a way, there's a silver lining. And that story I'll share too. We're getting ready to go out to dinner, and I get a call from her, and that says she lives in Maryland. And she said, can you meet me at University of Pennsylvania? I just got a call that they have a donor for me. So sad story of somebody who lost their life, but for her, she gained a liver. And so I just tell that story that also happened on Valentine's Day 10 years ago. And so I count myself exceedingly blessed to be able to share some of these things, that when sometimes something bad happens, there in the midst of that pain, could be a purpose that can be formed, right? So for me, it was sitting on the couch moaning that I had, to sit on bed rest, but that gave me a great opportunity to learn that changing Nicholas's diet reduced the pain that he had because he was exposed to gluten-containing foods. And, because he couldn't verbalize at the time to us that he was in pain, we kept feeding him food that was not good, was not agreeing for him. And now we now know that, and his diet is now 100 times better. So if you're listening to me and you have a lovely individual that is very picky eater, let's pay attention to what's happening to their diet and their food, because oftentimes there's a reason for it. So anyway, our theme tonight is going from the ordinary to the extraordinary. That's the theme for the empowerment movement. And I started off just telling stories about myself, because I think ultimately when you see someone, you never know what they're going through and what issues they're dealing with. But it's always part of it is their story. But I want to welcome you to hearing about the importance of knowing that we could be ordinary people. What appears to be ordinary, our ordinary story, can now translate into an extraordinary story. But before we get into that, I want to challenge you and ask you a question. So my question to you is, what are you doing differently this year than you did last year? You started off the year, I'm sure you had a plethora of New Year resolution. For some of us, they've blown out New Year resolution by now, right? So what was your goal for this year? So I want to say, in the Zoom room with me today is Ohaz Dynasty. So I think I know who you are. I love that. And I have Pat and I have Janet behind the scenes, and then I have Senna. What was your goals for this year? I'll share mine. Mine was to make sure I grow. And so I've decided to put some things on pause and reflect and think about what are the most important things in life and make sure I do more of that. So don't do more. Don't do a lot of things, but do less and do what's meaningful. So if you're watching on Facebook, why don't you type, what was your goal? What's one thing that you wanted to do this year? I want to know more about what you wanted to do. Pat, I don't know if you want to share, what are you doing this year? Oh, you don't have any New Year resolution, Pat says. I'm just letting God be in control. Wow, love it, love it, love it. God be in control. Okay, so that in itself is a goal, right? So one of the things that I wanted to do more this year is really I want to learn new habits. And I was at a training program the other day, and they were talking about one of the key things to be able to do a new habit is make sure you link the new habit to something you're already doing now, because then it forces you to do it. So, for example, you brush your teeth every morning. So if you wanted to do something new, link it to the thing that you're already doing. So then that kind of helps you to do it. So for me, when I get up in the morning, one of the first things that I do is before I can roll out of bed is pick up my phone and go to my Bible app because spirituality is very important to me and have a conversation with God. And so one area that I'm not doing very well is exercise. So I decided that when I'm, praying, I'll be exercising at the same time. So far I have done maybe a couple of days of that. So I'm hoping to continue. So that's mine for the year.
Is that why you've been filling your rings? We are, for some context, I think, what was it, late last year? I took your Apple Watch and I linked it so that you could see my physical activity and I could see yours.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's where I'm starting because when COVID hit, I was so good. I used to go for walks all the time. And then I used to, take a break in the middle of the day and then I let it slip. And so I have not been physically as active. So yes, that's why you're starting to see a little bit of activity there. So yes, you put me out there. Thank you. Thank you, my daughter.
I'm proud.
How about you, Janet? What is your goals this year? Any exciting anything?
Actually, it's kind of what you said. I was doing good, but then when the holidays came around, a lot of things were going on, personally and all around me. So I stopped giving myself a lot of attention. So even if I'm going to wake up an hour earlier, I said that I was going to read something that I can gain something out of. So currently I'm reading Heart Smarter. So it's a book about women's heart health. So I want to do that on a daily basis, just read for 20 minutes and then walk for 20 minutes. And
Awesome.
then the other 20 minutes, I'm going to meditate.
All right. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's excellent. So
That's like my 1 hour to myself a day that I'm going to give.
That's great. Now, so that's a perfect example of how you're, engaging the body, mind, and spirit, right? In all
Yep.
three components.
Yep.
And that's really, really crucial. So yes, mindset is very important. So yeah, so tonight I'm talking a little bit about going from ordinary to extraordinary. And I'm going to try to do this and see if it'll work. There was a story of a man that I heard and I shared this at my church on Saturday, but I thought it was really powerful that I can't get past the story. So I might share it here. But beyond that, it tells a story of going from an ordinary to extraordinary. And I was reading a devotional earlier this morning. So devotional is, reading a text from the Bible that I read. And it helps me to connect it to everyday life things, right? So one of the things that we in the life of individuals with special healthcare needs, and I call it healthcare needs because they do. Oftentimes you need to also have to do more therapy and activities and programs in order for them to really have the basics. Everything that the average person is able to get up and get going and do, for some individuals, it needs more supports, right? So when we think about their lifestyle, sometimes we think about challenges people may have versus seeing that they can actually grow through their challenges and get to the other side. So I was reading this devotional today and it was talking, and it titled it as Ordinary, from the Ordinary to Extraordinary. So that's why I wanted to do that topic today. And it was talking about a story about the brother of Jesus. His name is James. So when we think about, Jesus, he had, Son of God and had all this power, but he was born as a man and in the family. And his brother, James, was not anybody to brag about, right? We think about those stories. You're like, okay, he wasn't even one of the disciples. He didn't show any promise. His brother, on the other hand, had all this power, was going around healing and teaching and preaching and doing all this awesome stuff. But His brother, the brother James, was like not even anyone to note. However, what's interesting about his story is this, that while he was the younger brother, he didn't even value his older brother Jesus at all. He thought, on the contrary, he thought Jesus was crazy. If you want to check it out in Mark chapter 3, verse 21. He thought Jesus was crazy. You know, it said that his own family didn't even think anything of it. And so, but then that tells you that James himself was really not noted. It was later on that we come to find out how awesome he is, because he became one of the most powerful people. He was actually the leader of the church at one point. And so the point here is that how is it that God can use someone who didn't have a great start and make him to be one of the most powerful people who wrote one of the most powerful books in the Bible? And so the point here is that sometimes we can have a late start in life. And oftentimes with some of our kids, it may seem like they're having a late start, but they can go on to become an amazing person. And so James, something happened along the way to transform him from an ordinary person to an extraordinary person. And you know what happened? What happened was that when Jesus died and rose, he showed up and he appeared to more than 500 people. And one of those people that he appeared to was his brother. And that was an encounter that changed his life forever. And, you know, when I think about my life, that's kind of like how my life story also has been. I had an encounter because I was reading a book called The Purpose-Driven Life. And in A Purpose-Driven Life, it was like, what is your purpose of your life anyway? Why are you here? What is the meaning? Do you think about what happens? Why did God create you? Why did he make you? Why did he make Genevieve 5'1" and 5'1 3/4"? Senna, 5'1 3/4. He just jumped up. Why did she make me that way? So I was reading it. The book was written by this guy called Rick Warren. He's a pastor. And I think I may have shared this story before. And I remember reading this story and realizing how impactful my life can be if I can connect to my purpose and realize that I'm valuable, and realizing that the child that I had, has value and he will be useful to advance people's lives. And look at that today. So that's why I started today saying I'm going to be Nick's mom. Nick's story has now helped to transform many people's lives. What the experiences that I've had, and connecting to the fact that he may have had challenges, but his challenges has gone on to now inspire many, many, many people. And so the same way that this brother James. So my connection to the Purpose-Driven Life was really realizing my life has meaning. And then when I gave my life to Jesus, I realized that his life is in me. Therefore, I can do more than what is on the surface. So therefore, while my profession may be pharmacist, or leading a nonprofit, all that doesn't matter on the grand scheme of eternity, because one day we will all pass and we'll all go over to the other side. And so when you go over to the other side, you go from being ordinary to extraordinary. But for many of us, our lives are ordinary to extraordinary, even on this side of earth. And that's what we really want to inspire and encourage our children to know, that they have meaning. They are valuable. So oftentimes I come here to share the stories because I want you to know that there is more to life than here. There is an eternal life, and it is an eternity to think about. And do you know that our life is like a long journey? And this side, for some of us, maybe we get to 70, 80. I want to live to 100. And Pat, I'm almost halfway there though. Almost halfway there. So I share the story to say that wherever you got started in life, whatever family you may be a part of, your life has meaning, and it can go from ordinary to extraordinary. And all you got to do is just allow Jesus to be a part of your life. I'm going to put it out there because it's important that people know that. Well, I invite you to know him, because I think if you do, you'll be like, whoa. But I want to share this story about this guy called Ron Archer. Let me see if I'll be successful, because sometimes I try to do social media and I'm not always 100%. So let's see if it will show.
I'm TC. Cooking soul
right.
food with my family is very important. But I started
10 years old.
Okay.
And I held my mother's gun to my head. And I wanted to blow my brains out all over her wall. You must ask the question, why would a 10-year-old child want to die? 10 is a time to dream of being an astronaut, of being a soccer star, a football player, a preacher, a pastor, a doctor. But for me, life was so horrific, with so much vitriol and pain, I wanted to die. I'm the product of interracial immigrants. My grandmother was tall, white, and thin from Germany, and we called her French fry. My grandfather was a big, burly black man from Cuba, and we called him Hamburger. Hamburger met French fry and created a happy meal. And these two immigrants produced 7 McNuggets with special sauce. We would joke that we would have Wiener Schnitzel with salsa for Thanksgiving. My grandfather had to hide the fact in the 1940s in America that he was married to a Caucasian woman. But one wedding anniversary, he had a flaw. He liked to drink overproof Cuban rum. And one evening he was inebriated. And a man saw them together and said to my grandmother, "Why would you be a nigger lover?" My grandfather, with huge arms, lost his temper and hit the man in the jaw and broke his neck. The man didn't die, but he was injured severely. He went to the worst prison, convicted of the crime, Mansfield Reformatory in Ohio, locked down 23 hours a day. It hit the newspapers that my grandmother was married to this convicted felon and she lost her job. But being a German woman, she didn't complain or whine or woe is me. She began to work odd jobs, cleaning other people's houses and toilets, taking care of their children. But as she was working, she would have fainting spells, passing out doing her job. She went to the doctor and discovered that she had a tumor growing behind her left eye that was metastasizing to her brain. And the doctor said, "We have to take out a third of your face, your eye. You will be malformed and disformed and disfigured for the rest of your life." What do? The American dream becomes an American nightmare. She could not work. She was sick and mutilated. My grandfather's in jail, and day by day, they lost everything that they had acquired. They lost their house. They lost their car. They lost their furniture. They lost their dignity. They lost their self-esteem, and they were living in the streets like animals. My 3 uncles got hooked on heroin. They belonged to a gang called the Devil's Disciple. And my entire family became atheistic. No God, no prayer, no Bible, no hope. And my mother at age 14 was called by a pimp named Larry, who said to her, "What is school doing for you? You are sitting on a gold mine." She said, "Where?" He said, "You're sitting on it." And we call this being turned out. And little by little, she began to sell her 14-year-old body to grown men for money to survive. It's called turning tricks. And at age 16, she got pregnant. We call it having a trick baby. 2 strangers meet for a business transaction, and there's a mistake. The pimp said, you can't make any money having a baby in the oven. We have got to kill this baby. They kicked her in the stomach. They fed her alcohol. They gave her drugs. They took a hanger and stabbed the baby over and over again. But the baby would not die. The baby was born 2 months premature with no pancreas, a learning disability, a bladder too small, unable to function, a severe stutterer. We call it a trick baby. Nobody wants the baby. No hope, no future. Kill it was the word. That baby was me. I'm the lowest of the low. I come from the guttermost. I come from a hellish condition. And so when I would go to school, I couldn't talk. I stuttered so severely from the trauma. My mother had a madam who hated men. Her name was Dolores, and she was a sadist. And when she would watch me, she would take a broomstick and stick it in a place where no boy should have any object in his body. And when you are tortured like that, you learn 4 things. Don't talk, don't trust, don't feel, and pretend nothing is happening. And by age 10, I had had enough. I wanted to die. And in my school, they put me in a boiler room with other kids who were dysfunctional like me, where we would finger paint all day long. And yet there was a teacher, thank God for her, who had a Gideon Bible. And she came to my school and she saw kids like me as her mission field. And she would give me this Gideon Bible and read to me stories of dysfunctional characters who God used. She would say to me, Ronaldo, God uses greatly those who have been wounded very deeply. He will turn your pain into power, your wounds into wisdom. She had me read the story of Moses, who was also a stutterer. I began to understand that God did love a trick baby. Even as low as I was, there was hope for me and possibility. And when a child begins to understand the love of God and the power of his word and the possibilities, it changes everything. How can a young man keep his way clean? By taking heed according to your word. Your word have I hid in my heart that I may not sin against thee. I began to memorize the Bible, that Gideon Bible, reading 2,000 scriptures. And when you put that kind of word in a life, something begins to happen. My stuttering went away. I stopped wetting the bed. I stood tall. I became valedictorian, became a pastor, and preached until everybody in my family got saved. Why? Because somebody placed the Gideon Bible in a woman's hand that changed a life forever. Yes, I was born a trick baby, but the trick was on the devil because of you. God.
Isn't that an amazing?
Hello, I'm Patrick Stewart.
Stop.
Did you know that right now over 70 million people have had to
I had to stop the pause for a minute. So I heard this story, somebody shared it with me, and I was just so overwhelmed with just gratitude that regardless of where we start in life, there is hope for our children. This young man was 10 years old and was silent, was placed in a boiler room. And now he, if you go on his website, this man's story is super compelling. I'm just like overwhelmed. There's a book he's written, and the book is called What Belief Can Do. What Belief Can Do. Check it out. And he talks about how significant trauma, like you can overcome significant trauma. And truly, you can. So The point here is that here was an ordinary person who has now become an extraordinary person. And regardless of what are you going through right now, there is hope. And if you've heard me talk about hope all the time, I talk about hope means holding on to possibilities every day. That's my hope. And that's your hope. That story is a powerful testimony about how every human being has value. And beyond just that, when they have a savior, they could be assured of that value. I know it's a roundabout way of how I shared it, but I hope you've been inspired by that story. You've been encouraged tonight. You can Google it on YouTube and listen to that story. And for the parents out there, I do this for you guys to remind you, your loved ones have value. Please see the potential and the gift in them. So there's a lot to share throughout the year. I hope you would be joining us throughout. But I want to remind you that for my goal, this is the year that hey, Michelle. So you popped up. Awesome. I hope that story inspired you. You're muted.
Yes, Auntie, it did. Sorry.
Yeah. What aspect of it? Tell us.
Just how he was able to overcome no matter what obstacles was put in his way. And he always listened. He never caved in. He never gave up.
That's right.
It's something we all should take into retrospect just every day, because every day for anybody nowadays, it feels like a struggle is what I hear a lot.
Yeah.
At the office.
Absolutely. I think that hearing and seeing that potential should inspire everybody, right? So I know, Pat, you also said, wow, what about that story that caught your attention?
Oh. The reason why I say wow is because my situation with my dad, is something. Forgiveness is just something I'm struggling with, and every time I sit and think about this whole situation, it's just like, wow, like wow. And I remember when Michael was diagnosed. Now he's 14. He's going to high school.
Wow.
In August, by God's grace. And then I look at him like, wow, I did this not by myself, with the support of my God and people that I really trust. I can't believe that my son, Michael, would be this man that every day I look at him and just like, wow, he's doing so great. So sometimes when I listen to other people's story, like one of my coworkers too, just started, and her son is also autistic. And we're talking about what she's going through. I'm like, I talked to myself, Patricia, you can't complain.
Yeah.
You just can't complain. When I hear that people's story, I'm like, at least Michael can express himself. He can say what he wants, but other people's kids can't even be able to say how they're feeling. Can't even verbal like this is what I'm feeling. Like one of my 3-year-old clients today was just in a behavior like what's going on? Just kicking, fighting, everything, because he can't be able to express himself. So that's how like, wow. And look at what that man been through. A 10-year-old boy was thinking about ending his own life. Wow. That's how I say, wow. Because at 10 years old, all you think about, go to school, make some new friends, enjoy yourself. But what he's been through, a 10-year-old want to end his life at that age. Like, wow, that's like, wow. It's a lot of wow, yeah.
It just tells you the power of knowing God. Yeah, that's the center of all that story. And
I feel grateful that Abel's now saying 6 words. I'm happy that he's saying 6 words, and he's gotten to a point where his private speech therapist has actually started the initiation for him to get a communication device.
awesome.
So we're in that process. And I can't, I had fears of him going to public school because I heard such crazy stories, like they're not all that great. The special education programs in the public school system, they're either overcrowded or, the kids just don't learn. I've heard different stories, so I had that fear, but things just weren't working out the right way before he started public school. And I had to take a step back. I was like, all right, God, you're telling me I need to put him in school and I need to trust the process and what's going on. I thank God every day because I have a great public school system. This child loves going to school and he's learned so much so far. His favorite thing to do right now is tracing.
Wow, good.
He actually at school plays in the block area. He plays with a baby doll sometimes. I can't complain. He's come a long way. And I will say I have great things I know coming up. I can't complain. I transferred to JFK closer to home. And I took a position that's a higher position at work, and I can't complain. I have a great boss again. I've always had great bosses. And I told her that I took the project management offer class certification the hospital was paying for. She said, when are you done with that? I said, April. She said, let me know. She said, because if you're looking for a higher position at JFK, they have something. She said, I'll point you in the right direction.
That's awesome.
She said, or I'll make sure you get boosted at this office to be the person in charge of the whole office that I'm pretty much almost like in charge of right now under her. She's like, I'll let you get to the point where you're in charge. She's like, and I relinquish a lot of stuff to you. So I can't complain. God's been moving in the right direction. So, and it's working out with Abel, me being closer to home. It's working out well. I can't complain.
It's so wonderful to hear, how we take certain things for granted. Saying 6 words is meaningful, significant, and knowing that he's going to have tools that way allow him to express himself. And, like Pat was just talking about Michael and seeing this young man brilliant.
I still can't believe she said he's going to high school. I don't believe that.
Yeah. He's going to high school in August. Yes.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It is. And so that's what you're.
It's almost taller than me.
When I'm able to make it to church when this boy, the sleeping with him is still really rough. We're still working on the sleeping. Because I really am trying to get him, we're trying to get there, but sometimes he just doesn't know how to turn it off. So sometimes we're still going to bed on the weekends. He's like, oh, I know there's no school, so I'm going to stay up, even though I'm trying not to.
Oh.
We still sometimes go to bed at 2:00.
Wow.
Or 3.
But you know what? Thank you, Michelle, for saying that, because that tells you how much the load is. And yet, with all that load, you're still smiling and grateful to God to have that. So if you're listening to me out there and you don't have any challenges with your children sleeping, any of that, and you're complaining about the small things, please don't. Please don't. Because there are folks that are walking the journey right now who are just grateful to get 3 hours of sleep and having a good night. So we use that. And that's why, I do these programs, because I want people to hear and count their blessings. Count your blessings and name them. The songwriter said, count your blessings and name them one by one. And you'll be surprised what the Lord has done. So Abel, awesome. I'm just so happy to see you, Michelle, and seeing how well he's doing. And I'm glad to hear those, so keep sharing those stories, because Pat will tell you, having walked that journey. So congratulations on almost completing your the project management program. And look at how handsome he is. Oh my God. Yeah. You blink, and he's like 24, 25.
Yeah, I
Young
know.
man. And he's gonna come and say, Tay, I'm taking care of you. And so that story that I was sharing with Ron Archer, if you go on his website, he talks about how that same mom that, people were saying that he should abort the son. Now the son is taking care of mom. Can you imagine? So
That was my
life is-
story. Remember, Dr. G, that was
Yeah.
my story 14
I
years
know.
ago.
I know.
14
know.
years ago.
I know. So I tell you, life matters. Life is important. Every human form, we need to make sure we honor it, because you never know, that same individual will be the one to come take care of you. So I hope you've been blessed tonight with this, what we've shared. It's always so awesome to be with y'all. So for my goal, we have a lot of great, exciting things happening. We started an art program with our kids. So every other Sunday.
Right, I'm gonna try to make it to one of the art.
Yes, but please sign up for it. We
art
still have
at
room
school,
for one or two
Yeah.
more people. It would be great. And the artist is awesome. And it's going to go on through the end of March. And then on April 2nd, which is World Autism Awareness Day, we want to be able to do a program to feature all the artwork. So when you be a part of that, and then I want to just put it out there that April 30th is when we're going to do our Bowling for Autism event. April 30th, so please mark it. April 30th, Sunday, April 30th at the Woodbridge. So if you're in New Jersey, you can join us. There'll be more information coming up going into next month. And then lastly, we do our annual grant program. So we have the annual grant program. It's going to be opening up next week.
Thank you.
It's going to open, that's okay. It's going to open up next week. So check out our website next week. The application is not there yet, but it will be there very soon. So for families who are interested in applying for our grant program, we raise money to give money out. That's just who we are. We are all about creating connections and providing resources. So, and then next month, February, yes, we will do our Ask the Expert, and we'll be talking about resources in the community. So once again, it's always about connecting you to resources, so then this way you realize you have tools that will help you navigate your journey. You're not alone, you're loved, and remember, we're all going from ordinary to ordinary, and that's really, really important. So on that note, I want to say thank you so much for joining us on tonight. It's always such a joy, such a pleasure, such a blessing to be with you. And if you catch us on replay later, know that your life matters. And I want you to go and check out that story. If you caught it at the tail end, the story of Ron Archer and the power in really knowing the Lord. So I want to say thank you all for joining us, and have a fantastic evening. God bless you. Take care. Bye-bye.